morning.
Good morning.
Blessing of the Lord be upon you.
Bless you in the name of the Lord.
Minor Prophets. Lesson number 68. And moving right along because we are in chapter 2 this morning. Chapter 2 of 3 chapters. I think we'll just get chapter 2 done this morning. Leave chapter 3 for next week. Chapter 1 last week, and just drop it back for a moment. And the big part of that was the severity and goodness of God. The seed portion. How that God could be severe, severe on whom He chooses and good on whom He chooses, but the idea He chooses to be severe on those who are severe. He has mercy on those who are merciful, and does not show mercy on those who are not merciful. And we see that throughout the Scripture. So we know that Judah, well, Israel, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom of Judah deserved punishment. And we know that Nineveh deserved punishment. And the Book of Nahum is about the punishment and destruction of Nineveh. So in Nahum chapter 2, verses 1 through 13, we're talking specifically about the destruction of Nineveh. Nineveh, the great city. The Assyrian Empire is going to come to an end because, yes, Judah deserved to be destroyed, but Assyria had been so terribly oppressive, vicious in what they did to the northern kingdom, Israel, that God judged them, said, you're not going to be the ones to destroy Judah. I'm going to raise the Babylonians. But the Babylonians are going to punish you. So, verses 1 through 9 is a message. And remember, this message is being given to Judah, to the Judeans. But it's about Nineveh. It's kind of giving them a heads up. Here's what's going to happen. Nineveh is going to be destroyed. But the message is somehow going to get to Nineveh. They've got people around, so they'll hear it. But it's for the children of Judah so that they will have hope of what's going to happen, even though they understand or need to understand they are going to be eventually destroyed, go into exile. So verses 1 through 9, Nahum writes, the scatterer has come up against you. Man the ramparts, watch the road, dress for battle, collect all your strength. For the Lord is restoring the majesty of Jacob as the majesty of Israel, for plunderers have plundered them and ruined their branches. Okay, we'll stop there for a moment. Who's the scatterer? Well, you have to look at the history of what's going on. When Nineveh would go in and capture a country, destroy it, what they would do, and Israel, the northern kingdom, is a good example of this, they would take the healthy, strong people of that country to a portion of their country. They would put them in one place. And then they would take people from another place and put them in the country they had taken over, they destroyed. So it's the group would go here, and another group would come and take their place. But when Babylon would come in, and we see this from the later passages, especially the book of Daniel, the book of Ezekiel, when the Babylonians come in and they start destroying people, they don't do this collective exile of peoples. When they take Judah, they do 3 exiles. All right, the first exile, they take some of the princes like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and take them to the capital city. But they spread the exiles out. When Ezekiel is taken into Babylonian exile, he goes up by the river Kibar with a group of Judeans. But they are scattered throughout the Babylonian Empire. And that's where the Jews really start building the synagogues in the Gentile lands. They're still kind of practicing Judaism or Yahweh worship in those foreign lands. But now you can see the difference. They're scattered through there. So the scatterer has come upon you. That's a reference to Babylon. Man the ramparts, watch the road, dress for battle, collect all your strength. In other words, here's your warning. You get ready, Nineveh. Get ready. But it's not going to do you any good. It's not going to be a surprise, but it's not going to do you any good. For the Lord is restoring the majesty of Jacob as the majesty of Israel. So there's a twin purpose here. A twin purpose. Number one, he's going to punish the plunderers. And that's what Assyria was. They were plunderers. Now Babylon's going to do the same thing. Babylon's going to carry away treasures. But punishing Assyria is a main concern here. The second concern is restoring Israel or Judah. And listen, it's not reforming Judah. It's restoring Judah. What's the difference between reforming and restoring? Do we understand that difference?
Reform would be to change a previous habit or practice. Restore would be like you restore confidence in somebody.
Okay. And what did you say, Danny?
I didn't get it out.
You didn't get it out?
Restoring is bringing back to.
Bringing it back to...
Reforming is changing.
Okay.
Bringing it back
But
to
restoring is bringing it back to its original status, original state of existence. And that's very important for us to understand, because when we look at church history, we know that for the first 2 centuries easily, the church existed as the church had existed since the day of Pentecost. There were some minor changes, there were some things going on, and there were debates over doctrine. But when you get to 325 with the Council of Nicaea and Christianity becoming the state religion, then you see changes coming where the church then over the next 300, 400 years doesn't look anything like the church in those first couple hundred years. Understand what I'm saying? What it looks like is more like the old Jewish system with a temple and a chief priest and a cleric priesthood and a laity of people that did not exist before. And then you have nearly 1,000 years of dark ages where people are not allowed to read the scriptures. The Bible is chained to the pulpit. Well, you have then a reform movement. And what was the reform movement trying to do? Reform that which had become apostate. See what I'm saying? Did it work? No. All they did was, well, here's where the apostate church has gone, and we're just going to do, in many ways, opposite of what the apostate church did. But if you look at the doctrines and you look at the practices, they were just as apostate as what the apostate church was. Or they're just as apostate as what the apostate church is. What needed to be done? Wipe all that out, go back and restore what was in those first couple hundred years, and especially what was there in the New Testament. And now, and when I say in the New Testament, remember what is mainly there in the New Testament is foundation. Understand what I'm saying? Here's the foundation that's being laid until the completion of the New Testament. After the completion of the New Testament, you don't have to build any more foundation. Now the church is being built on that foundation. So you don't need any more foundation. That makes sense? Makes sense? So, what they're saying is, all right, how many times we talked about Hezekiah's reforms? Did that work? No. We talked about Josiah's reforms. Did that work? For what? 20 years? A little while. What has to be done? Wipe it out. Restore it. Restore it. And that's what God has the plan here. And that's why he says the Lord is restoring the majesty of Jacob as the majesty of Israel, for the plunderers have plundered them and ruined their branches. He's going to allow Babylon to wipe it out so he can take those Jews, Judeans, into exile, and there he can rebuild them to bring back and restore. What's he going to restore? Number one, he's going to restore the temple. Then the law. Then the city. Then the nation. Because all those things need to exist before he can do what? Bring the Messiah into the world. Oh, so that is, got an itch there. That is why the book of Nahum is important. Even though it's about the destruction of Nineveh, you see the link that is there. And you see what God is doing, what the Lord is doing in this time period of history. Follow me? And that's why we study it. So we'll know. All right? It's a poetic picture of the scatterer that it's given us in verses 3 and 4. Okay? What's Babylon going to be like? The shield of his mighty men is red. The soldiers are clothed in scarlet. I don't know if that's exactly true, but what does red and scarlet kind of represent?
Blood.
Blood, yeah. The chariots come with flashing metal. On the day he musters them, the cypress spears are brandished. The chariots race madly through the streets. They rush to and fro through the squares. They gleam like torches. They dart like lightning. Those are not tanks. So people who want to pull that out of the context of that time and bring it to today, and the Battle of Armageddon, there it is, but it's talking about tanks because what? They're rushing to and fro, they gleam like torches, they dart like lightning, what? They're shooting their cannons. Figurative language, you can make, say anything you want. You better hold it in context. It's talking about the Babylonians taking Nineveh. Okay? Verses 5 through 7, Nineveh's futile defense. What does futile mean? It's the opposite of util. Something util is able to be utilized, but something that is futile is useless. And that's what I said in that first part, right? Go ahead and prepare. Man the ramparts. Get ready for battle. Right? Verse 5. He remembers his officers. They stumble as they go. It's like Hogan's Heroes, right? They hasten to the wall. The siege tower is set up. Hey, you get to the wall and what? The siege tower is already set up against you. A little bit late, right? The river gates are opened. The palace melts. What? The river gates are open. What does that mean? You understand that?
These are being invaded by the enemy.
Yes, that can be a part of it. But what if you have gates, or you ever heard of a wicker dam? Okay. What if you have these wicker or wicket dams that are on the river that are producing water to put you on an island? So that when the enemy comes, they have to cross water to get to you, like a moat. They destroy the dams and the water's gone, right? So the river gates are open. Their protection is gone. The palace melts away. Well, does the palace melt away, or do the people around the palace kind of slip out the back door? The rats desert the ship as it's beginning to sink. See the poetic stuff? Its mistress is stripped. She is carried off, her slave girls lamenting, moaning like doves and beating their breasts. It's like all those people who were supported by the empire, by the well, we would say that it's like all those bureaucrats. They got their jobs and they hardly do anything profitable to cause trouble, and that's not profitable. All of a sudden, they're like getting out of here. Oh, now what am I going to do? I can't dig ditches, and I can't. That's in the New Testament, isn't it? It's Jesus talking about, you know, the guy who's put out his position. What am I going to do? I can't dig ditches. I can't go out and work in the fields all day. What am I going to do? Oh, here's what I'll do. I'll go make friends with the enemy. Maybe that'll give me a good job. Verse, yeah, that was 7. But Nineveh's futile defenses. 8 through 10, from riches to desolation. Nineveh is like a pool whose waters run away. Halt, halt, they cry, but none turns back. Plunder the silver, plunder the gold. There's no end of the treasure or of the wealth of all precious things. Desolation and ruin, hearts melt and knees tremble, anguish is in all loins, all faces grow pale. So what's going on here? Nineveh is like a pool whose waters run away. What happens, we know these playas around here, when it rains and rains good like it has been, they fill up with water. And then what happens? Go 3 or 4 months without rain and just, it's gone. And what happens to the wildlife and even cattle and such that rely upon that? You know, it's not there anymore. Halt, halt, they cry, but none turns back. Nineveh, having plundered nations, was the richest city in the world. Okay? It was like all the riches in the world were flowing into it. Now it was like all the riches in the world were flowing out of it. We're getting all this wealth. Look at us. Look how important we are. And now all of a sudden, it's gone. There's no end of the treasure or of the wealth of all precious things. It's just like, how much did they have? How much did they accumulate? And where's it going? It's going to Babylon. It's going to Babylon. Hearts melt and knees tremble. Anguish is in all loins. Lots of times you can see anguish in a person's face, right? Anguish is in all loins. Man, when it hurts you deep in your intestines, when your guts hurt, that's anguish. Faces grow pale. It's like, how could this happen? If the United States falls tomorrow, there'll be people walking around the streets saying, how could this happen?
Oh boy.
How could this happen? Yep. Verses 11 through 13. Where is the lion's den? Well, it's helpful if we know that the lion was the symbol of the Assyrian Empire. Right? Well, if the lion was the symbol of the Assyrian Empire, where would the lion's den be?
Syria.
The capital city, which was Nineveh. Where is the lion's den? Where's Nineveh now? And this is, of course, prophesying about its destruction. The feeding place of the young lions, where the lioness went, where the cubs were with none to disturb, a place of safety. Hey, the capital city, that's the place to go because that's where you'll be protected, right? Right? But what happens if you sent your warriors out from the capital city? You sent them out to fight battles 1,000 miles to the east, 1,000 miles to the north, 1,000 miles to the south, 1,000 miles to the east. And all of a sudden they're starting to get their butts whipped. So you send more out. And they're getting whipped and the enemy's getting closer and closer. You send more out. We got to get to the capital city, right? That's going to be protected, but they keep sending the troops out. We'll deal more with that when we talk about the fig trees, and I think that's in, let me look down here, chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3, verse 12. All your fortresses are like fig trees, the first ripe fruits. If shaken, they fall into the mouth of the eater. So we'll deal with that particular phraseology when we get there. But I'm giving you a kind of a heads up to that. If you send the ones who are to protect the capital city, the warriors out, who's left to defend the city? The end of World War II. What were the German soldiers like? What were the German soldiers like at the end of World War II?
Devastating.
They were children, and they were old men like us. Because all the young, healthy, strong, virulent soldiers, warriors, have been killed. Both sides rushing in. And Hitler had to throw whatever he could. And that's a lot of our soldiers were just, a lot of them were psychologically the PST of World War II. We're having to kill 10, 11, 12-year-old children dressed up as soldiers. You got enough to defend you if you've destroyed the army. Nineveh, the strength of the Assyrian Empire, would be decimated. It was so completely destroyed that its exact location could not be found for centuries afterwards. This was 609 BC. The Grecian Empire, when Alexander the Great came through there going to the east. If I'm correct, it's in the 300s. Even at that time, they couldn't find Nineveh. They couldn't find where that city was. Go back and read the accounts of it.
Or even today, they don't have an idea where it
Yeah,
is.
today they have. They believe they found where it was but it was just covered with, once it was destroyed and then the sands blew over it. They couldn't even find it. A great city that took 3 days to walk through it.
Well, but that 3 days to walk through it was many years before this, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a long time
They
before.
most likely grown substantially, haven't they, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. To become like the capital of the known world at that time. Yes. Okay, verse 13. Behold, I am, this is the Lord now speaking, and we're going out of poetry. We're going out of Hebrew poetry into a paragraph where the Lord is speaking. Okay? Behold, I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts, and I will burn your chariots in smoke. All those chariots that were metal, steel, those tanks? No. Again, that's poetic language here. I will burn your chariots in smoke, and the sword shall devour your young lions. I will cut off your prey from the earth, and the voice of your messengers shall no longer be heard. In other words, you're going to be destroyed, and nobody's going to be afraid of you anymore. That's chapter 2. That unpacks quite a bit, I think. What's going on, what the Lord is saying. Do you have any questions on that?
Nineveh was on the north shore of the Mediterranean, right?
No.
Where was it?
Nineveh and the Assyrian Empire was on a little bit east of the, or maybe on the Euphrates River. It was over more toward, okay, from
East of
where the
Judah?
Mediterranean Sea, we put it right here. So Mediterranean Sea, you had Israel down here, Syria up here, Lebanon kind of in the middle. You had Syria, and then over here you had Assyria. And Nineveh would be there. And then on over and a little bit south, you'd have Babylon.
How did Jonah come across a fish?
Had 3 days to do it, right? So, if
And then he did wind up on a ship, didn't he? Was he on a ship
he
and
was
got
on
off?
the ship, got cast off the ship
Okay.
to the whale or the sea creature, okay? But when the sea creature spits him up or vomits him up, it's off of the Euphrates, I believe the Euphrates River, maybe the Tigris. You'll have to look to see just which river is there. He is very close to Nineveh. How did he get there? Without going, okay, out to what's that? Morocco, and anyway, down around Africa and up
It's
through,
back up.
yeah, and then into like not the Gulf of Aqaba, but what we call the Persian Gulf. I believe is where the Euphrates comes out now. It's miraculous.
In my mind, and I don't know why, I had him traveling west,
He was traveling
along
west
the
of
shore
Tarshish.
of the Mediterranean.
Which was the opposite direction of where God told him to go.
Right. Okay.
He gets thrown into the sea,
Okay.
and he ends up over here. 3 days later.
I had forgot the part about he ran away from. I had it, he refused to, which he did, but I was leaving out the running away from part. So that would put him, he was going whether he wanted to or not.
Well, I think if he had not prayed for forgiveness in the belly of that sea creature, he'd have probably been turned into seafood right there. And somebody else would have gone to Nineveh to preach that message. But you're correct. How go from the Mediterranean to there in 3 days? You have to put the miraculous in there. Whatever.
Factor 6.
Warp speed around, or the fountains of the deep somehow
Current.
come up. Yeah. Then put it in God's hands.
Did it ever say if anybody saw him being spat up out of the fish or not?
Well, that's what some scholars will talk about and discuss. Why his message had such an impact? Because if he's in the belly of that great fish, sea monster, whale for 3 days and 3 nights, the stomach fluids, acids would be working on him. All right, so there he is. He comes up, and again, if there's, it's coastal cities, Euphrates River, whatever. He comes up. There are people around there. Of course, they had ships that they sailed up and down the Euphrates, Tigris rivers and stuff for commerce. That sea creature, we'll call it a whale, comes up to dry ground, vomits him out. Just him or all of his, what's in there, okay? Vomits him out, and there are people standing there looking. Remember what I told you about their gods. A man's body with an eagle's head. A man's body with a lion's head. A man's body with a fish head. So here's a fish. Here comes a man out of it. He's got a message. They're going to listen to